matter would you like to take first, Mr. Chairman? In order, we have Ms. McLeod here as a adjacent property owner to the Kathy Parker request, which is Third Street, and that's the top of the agenda, if you'd like to do that one first.
Okay.
All right. This is a pretty similar request to what we've seen on a 50-foot lot. Okay, 50-foot lots are our enigma in Blackstone, because there's so many 25-foot lots in town that a lot of people have them, two of them. And if you guys remember, we did several of these, one on Luke Street, one on College, and there may have been another one, I can't remember where, but
Dillard?
there was one on Dillard that the house is being constructed on, that's
Right.
exactly right. So we've had three of these exact same requests,
Main Street.
and what you have here is a very old, historically subdivided piece of property that was subdivided in 1894. And it's called the West Blackstone Plat. If you look right here, in this part of town, they were divided into 25-foot lots years and years ago. The town's zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance now requires an 80-foot lot. Okay, if they were gonna create new lots in that zoning district, the frontage would have to be 80 feet. But this is a non-conforming or a grandfathered parcel, and it's two 25-foot lots, okay? So it's a 50-foot total. So we have some precedents where we try to consider these 50-footers. Dillard Street is correct, there's actually a house being built on it. One was approved on Luke Street and one was approved on College, where we moved the house over a little bit.
To the alley.
Typical side yard setback, and we're really talking about a side yard setback today. Standard today would be 15% of the frontage, 15%. So 15% of 80 feet is 12 feet. Okay.
I'm terrible at
And
math.
12 feet on each side, okay? If it were an 80-foot lot, what's being presented to you today is offering just that, a 12-foot side yard setback on either side, okay? However, this is a corner lot. And in that zoning, that particular zoning district, and literally every zoning district in town, we have enhanced side yard setbacks on corner lots, okay? It's intended for sight distance issues, so if you pull your car up, you can see around the house. And the setback on this particular piece of property is 35 feet, okay? On a corner lot, there's just no way that this can be done. Because if you had 35 feet and no side yard setback on the other side, you could have a house 15 feet wide. But the reason I think this is a reasonable request is because in the West Blackstone plat, the streets are abnormally wide. And if you look at that old subdivision plat when they did it, instead of the standard 50-foot wide right-of-way, not pavement, but right-of-way, which we would require with a new subdivision, West Blackstone plat has 70-foot right-of-ways. So believe it or not, that property should be, I'm not a surveyor and I didn't have it surveyed, but logically from the center line of the street over 35 feet. So you've already got a normally wide right-of-way. So the house wouldn't be very close to the pavement to start with. And the request is to take it down to a 12-foot setback instead of the 35. And 12 foot on each side because Ms. Carrie Epps owns the property on the east side. And so we want to certainly maintain as much setback as we can on that side. But the request is to vary the side setback from 35 feet to 12 feet. And they're proposing a 26-foot wide house. And the reason the 26-foot wide, 12, and 26 is thus 50 feet.
Are we talking about this area beside Ms. Carrie Epps?
It's right there, it's a vacant lot next to Carrie Epps, it's at the intersection of Fremont.
I was up there,
and
but I
Third.
was looking across the street at the new development.
It's not in the wooded lot, it's in the field right next to,
beside.
right next to Carrie Epps.
Okay.
And we're not asking to vary the side setback on Carrie's side, but because the street right-of-ways are abnormally wide, 70 feet rather than 50, we're asking to go from the 35, because that's required in a corner lot, to 50, or to 12 feet.
Now, in the future, will sidewalk or gutters go on Fremont Street on both sides?
I would say if there is going to be any curb and gutter or sidewalks or anything done, it would likely be on Third Street. can't say it's a standard, council's never voted on, it's not policy, but if you go over to East End and you look where we've done curb and gutter, if there's not a house facing that particular street, we have not been putting curb and gutter in. Okay? So if you go down to Epps Street, okay, which is not Viewbank, which is the last one, but Epps is where they're building Patriot Square, and there are homes on Epps Street that face Epps Street with curb and gutter. Across, there's no houses that face, and there's no curb and gutter. Okay? So I would say logically, because all these homes will face on Third Street, logically we would, if there was curb and gutter to be planned or anticipated, it would be on Third Street.
Has Ms. Parker specified which way the house will face, if it's gonna be Fremont or if it's gonna be Third Street?
If you look at the dimensions of the lot, or dimensions of the house, and I know it's not up, but if you read her letter, I understand the setback requires the width of the new home not to exceed 35 feet, and my proposed home is planned for 26 feet wide. So the front door, if you look at the floor plan, is on the narrow of the two sides. So it's 58 feet deep and 26 feet wide. Okay. So it's a shotgun style house, if that's an appropriate term.
It's gonna face,
It would face Third Street. The front door is gonna face Third Street, but it'll stretch farther back.
We won't get into a situation like,
Yes, ma'am. They showed the house. 26 by 58 is the dimension. It'll be 26.
Oh, that's me, I think. I'm making, yeah. Tell I'm a new, you can tell I'm a newbie.
I just heard the noise.
What?
a shave if they-
Oh,
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me.
Like I was saying, we will not get in a,
Yes, ma'am.
we won't get in a situation like we are in on the dead end of,
Third Street?
Third Street.
That was permissible, but council, as a matter of standard and matter of policy, has said we want the front door facing the front of the lot. So, if you remember, you may or may not, on Third Street, a 50-foot lot, wide lot, okay? And they put a manufacturer, or a modular home, which is permissible in that zoning district, but the front door faces the side.
Mm.
They put it in there, it's a lovely home,
Yeah.
and they keep the yard immaculate and landscaped, but the back door is facing the neighbor and the front door is facing the neighbor.
oh.
So,
Oh, well,
council said, we don't wanna see that anymore, so
yeah,
we've created that as a standard, that the door has to face the front.
yeah.
And in this case, what's being proposed, it does.
I hate to be asking so many questions.
No,
But-
please do.
On that curve,
Yes, sir.
if I was heading from Amelia and I get to Carrie Epps' house and I wanna make that right turn on Freeman,
Uh-huh.
would there be a possibility of, like you have the cement sidewalk,
Well,
would that be there?
not proposed, no, there's nothing proposed to be put in, no.
I know that had nothing to do with the house,
Yeah,
but,
I don't have anything scheduled to go in the neighborhood, and the only reason that particular, on Second Street, got curb and gutter, because we had money left over in a grant, and that's what we chose to do with it. Instead of sending it back to Richmond, we curb and guttered Second Street. Everybody on Third Street's like, what about us, why didn't you do? Well, because we ran out of money, quite frankly. The town standard for curb and gutter is that the property owner pay half, and the town pay half. What we've been doing is applying for grants and paying that person's half, and the town matches.
Okay.
So like on Nottaway Avenue, goes all the way to Cole Harbor, okay? Typically, each property owner would have been assessed 50% of the cost of that curb and gutter, and it used to be 50% of the sidewalk, but council has agreed that they would waive the sidewalk portion. But what we applied for and received was a 50-50 revenue share grant from the Department of Transportation. So the town still put up its 50%, but the property owner's 50% was waived because we were some state grant funds. I don't have anything planned on Third Street right now.
so how far would this house be from Ms. Epps' house? That's gonna be the 12-foot?
Well, no, not from her house, because I
It's a
think
vacant lot, you said, right?
there's a vacant lot in there.
Yeah.
I think Miss Epps' home sits on a series of lots, and then there's a vacant lot that she owns, and then you got the 50 feet, so it would be 12 feet from the side property line to that vacant lot. I can draw it up real quick for you, so you understand.
I'm trying to figure out,
If the town run the Great Grass through there, it's a line, water line run down between the back of my house, right down by Miss Curry's house. So I know y'all not gonna set the house on top.
No, we can't, there's a big storm sewer that we put in several years
A little
ago.
bit further over from the green field.
We have an easement that runs through there as well, and we can't, the home can't be built over top of the easement, so we'll have to set back off that.
so would that house be on the same line?
Logically, it would be on the same line as Carrie Epps's house. The front of this house, excluding the front stoop or steps, would be in line with Carrie's front of her
I
house.
got a house similar to this one sitting there in the 700 block on Second Street. Right down the corner, it's a long house in there with the front,
Okay,
you know, that right across from where they putting the apartments in. It's a house,
there you go.
picture behind this one.
But the one on Dillard Street,
That small lot,
you can look at the one on Dillard Street where they put the foundation and that shows you what it looks like. Yeah.
right there across from the project in the 700 block. So to this one, that one is sitting sideways and
Yes, ma'am.
with everything facing the front.
It'd be facing the front, that's correct. Just so you know, the town standards are, in the R2 zoning district, a 35-foot setback. Or in line with an adjacent dwelling that's within 50 feet of the property line. Okay? So you can move, you can encroach on that 35 in order to keep in line. Okay? They could go back 35 feet if they chose to, but they're entitled to stay in line, and we prefer that they be in line.
And so if they stay in line, then where does that fall?
No closer than Carrie Epps's house, and I don't know the exact measurements of her house, but there's 3 or 4 Jerome Knight has a home in that block. There's a
Yeah,
couple
somebody
free
else,
houses
yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
They appear to be all in line. I could go double check, but this home would be also on the front in
Line with
line.
that.
So the standard is 35 feet or in line with a dwelling that's within 50 feet of the adjacent property or the subject property.
That won't bother with that water line that's going through there.
They can't build in the easement.
So let's see your drawing here. What were you gonna show us? Just so we can get it. I like to see
May I
stuff.
ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
If y'all set this house in there and according to it gotta be so many feet from, Third Street and so many feet in from Freeman Street,
Yes, ma'am.
is that gonna be included, the back part gonna be included on any part of my property?
It won't encroach on your property. The required rear setback is 25 feet in the R2 district. So let's assume that Carrie's at 35. I don't know, she may be less, but 35 plus 58, that's what, 93? Have we got that right?
Yeah.
Plus 25, and each of these lots is 150 feet deep, so that's pretty small.
Cause I don't know how large this house when you set it inside, or don't know how far it's gonna reach back for someone to. set it
58
back.
feet, it'll reach back 58
Yeah.
feet based on the drawings that you got.
So your property faces Second Street? Your property faces Second Street?
My name is Julie McCarty.
Excuse?
I have property John in the lot.
Second Street.
Okay.
She lives catty corner. Our 2 lots are here facing Third Street. She lives just over, but facing Second Street.
Okay.
She doesn't live in the corner house. Second house east of Freeman Street.
Okay.
And so looking out her back door, she would look at an angle at the back door of this new home,
Okay.
slight angle.
That was the only thing.
If you'd like to open it
I
up,
don't mind
you
y'all
want this
putting the
map?
house in
I
anyway.
wanna see.
I don't have no problem with you putting the house in there, whoever wanted to put one in there, but the only thing I want to know, don't want no chickens back there.
Well, that's a different matter.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, don't mind to put.
We're not doing this tonight, but a
You know, when you
chicken
put-
coop.
When you put it in there, we don't want no chicken.
25 feet.
Well,
I know one time before the town, back this thing, we couldn't have no chickens in the town of Blackstone,
The
but I
rules-
see now we're getting chickens back in the town of Blackstone,
And
About 4
roosters.
chickens in town.
4 chickens. Can't have a full chicken, what about rooster?
No roosters. No
Hens,
roosters.
they don't cook without a rooster, you know. Excuse me, but,
No chicken and
Alright.
rice too.
but I don't have any.
This is the drawing that Jennifer
So
wants me to show.
is this Miss Epps?
That's Carrie Epps' home.
Okay.
It faces Third Street, okay? And this is looking south towards UMac. That new development where they're knocking the trees down and stuff is across the street. Miss Epps' home is on lots, but she also owns a vacant lot, like Monica was saying. Here's the new home on the two corner lots. That 12 feet is not to her house, it's to the line of the adjacent property. Okay? It's not to her house, and each one of these lots, as we know, is 25 feet wide. Okay, so whatever setback she's got, and I don't know what that is,
Right.
we know that that house will be at least 37 feet from her house. At least, not including whatever setback that she's got.
See, your drawings are helpful, but
Yeah,
If you'd like to open a public hearing,
Okay.
formally.
Thank you, Mr. McNorbert. Now hereby open the, session open to the public. And is there anybody present to speak for
Oregon.
the construction of this house?
Would
I
you like
don't
to,
have any personal, but I don't mind putting a house in there, but need to get the property survey to make sure that the house is same where it is, unless it needs some more property.
I
for the
think
ag
probably a
farm.
wise thing, certainly for the developer,
Yeah.
to have the house pinned, the four corners pinned, to make sure that the setbacks are all met. It's not a bad idea, and I recommend we do it for our houses, but it's not a bad idea.
Cause I know from the side street you gotta come in, and from Flint Street you gotta come in. Because, the house right there on the corner
Mhm.
from me, when they surveyed, they found out that when they built the house, they had, the steps that they leave was going too far over in the street. If they redid the street, it would go right up past the steps.
If you look
So
at
I
that,
think they came in and they changed the steps around on that house the other day.
They very well.
And got them this back step, because they got a back door and it's facing out towards the street now.
Just,
But, I know when you put the house in there sideways, it's nothing, facing, nothing on Fremont Street that's facing out to Fremont Street. Not in the block of the, up there further, there used to be some houses in there, but that property now is open. But the back of the property, so right there at the corner when they had the barber shop, they used to face out.
Mhm.
But there's nothing facing out there, and I know if y'all put a house in there, it gotta be set back enough. Cause they can't, they're so far from that street. And then they have to set it back so far from Third Street. So how far is it gonna bring it up in the back?
if you look at the math, and we do the math real quick,
Yes.
and by the way, for the record, Julia McLeod is a resident of Second Street. What's your address?
7-Eleven.
711 Second Street. Julia McLeod is one of our veterans from the West End, or the, I guess we call it West End
Yeah,
Housing
West End.
Improvement Program, where we did street improvements and utilities.
okay.
Charlie Williams,
If we do the math, okay, and we're gonna assume that Carrie Epps' house is 35 feet in the front, okay? This house is being proposed that is 58 feet deep, okay? So if you add the two of those together, that's what, 13, that's 93 feet, okay? Plus the required 25 in the rear. 118 feet total consumed with front setback, rear setback, and house, okay? That tells me that each of these lots that I know are 150 feet deep, they can be no closer by rule than 25 feet from your back property line. That's the closest they can be. But if they stay in line with Carrie Epps, they won't be anywhere even close to 25 feet. Okay?
Their back door.
But the trouble is when they came up and did this work up there, when you put the water, they cut all the information out on the back, they just cut it all back on the back, cause we had, pegs out there to show where the property line was. But when they came in and did the work, they didn't bother putting in the pegs back.
I guess.
So
Yes, ma'am.
we just governed it from where I got a shade on mine, but I governed mine from where we had where the old line went. And we brought that back, cause I know on it, we had probably go down the bank,
Mhm.
but I put my shade up on the bank to make sure that
You
I was
did.
on the even line on my property, cause I know the property went down the bank. But I don't know how far from that tree it went, cause the property cut.
I have to get a
It
surveyor.
widened out in the back than it did in the front.
I don't know the answer because I don't have it surveyed. I do have some plans where we put the storm sewer in. It used to be a tremendous ditch, nearly as deep as this room and full of brush and stuff.
Yeah, everything.
So we
was
cleaned it
there.
out
They
and
just
piped
cut
it in
all
several
that
years
down.
ago
Cause it was a branch run down through there, and they just cut all that down, cause then it started washing, and it washed over into Miss Curry's yard.
not anymore.
Cause I've been up there
Yes,
since
sir.
1973, so I've been there for
Okay.
quite a while.
So they cannot be any closer than 25 feet to your property, but in the event they decide that they wanna stay in line, they're entitled to do that with Carrie Ups's property,
Yeah,
then it would be much more than 25 feet.
yeah, but I don't know how far they're gonna have to.
It would
put
be-
some of that
If they stayed in line with Carrie, assuming that she's 35, it would be about
water
40,
coverage.
about 47 feet off your back property line would be the back of the house. If they're in line with Carrie Ups and she's 35
Oh,
feet.
I put an option, there's no problem.
So you
There's no
were,
problem with it. I was hoping Ms. Curry was gonna be here tonight, but, for
Mhm.
some reason she couldn't make it.
That's what I was gonna
I
ask.
came down and found out that it was you. My opinion, Karen, we do one of the,
She's lovely. I like her.
so
I like her
you
son,
were,
he's a nice guy.
you were saying or recommending that they pin the house?
What I'll do, and I don't know if this, because we're not here to put conditions on things.
Okay.
We're here to just sit back and say, yes,
Yeah.
thumbs up or thumbs down. Planning
Mhm.
Commission and Council, they handle things like conditional use permits and conditional rezonings where they say, we want a list of proffers. So what I will do is require, because of the nature of the narrowness of the lot, I'll require them in order to get their building permit to go ahead and pin the four corners of the house, put you at ease, so you'll know where
yeah,
it's
but
going and all that.
that way, if they get it, survey or what,
So it's fine.
they'll know exactly what they got, and I know what I got, and then they.
Get the house killed.
Survey.
The surveyor comes in, puts
You
four
know exactly
corners.
where you put,
Okay.
when you put the stuff on something, to make sure that the property is yours, and you're not on somebody else, 'cause I think we had trouble with, they doing some work with some more houses out there, and they found out
Mhm.
that the house wasn't on the property that, wasn't quite on the property they supposed to have been on, and they had to go in there and buy the property out, cause they had already did remodel the house in there, so they had to go buy somebody else's property.
I'm gonna correct something that I said 47 feet, if I do the math, it's 57 feet. Because it would be 93 with a 35 setback, 58, it'd still be 57 feet from the back property.
Wow,
And that's with the 12-foot
yeah,
setback.
that sounds pretty good.
So is there anybody else to speak for this property? So I hereby close that session and open up, is anybody present to speak against this property? Everybody don't speak all at one time. So hearing none, seeing none, I hereby close that. Well, did you have something to say?
My recommendation would be, we've done several of these, and I think we're probably gonna keep on doing a bunch of them, because there's a lot of these narrow lots that are non-conforming that were platted years before we came up with our 80-foot setback, or 80-foot wide lot. And I think you'll probably continue to see these on a somewhat regular basis, and I think the BZA had decided at some point they wanted to take them on an individual basis, and so to bring them to you, but, I don't think it's any more unusual than any of the others.
I entertain a motion at this time.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve, the 12-foot setback on each side
On
in
each side.
accordance with, the property that's 50 feet
Yes, ma'am.
closest to it. So that's my motion.
12 foot on each side, including no more than 26 feet on the house, so.
Correct.
Right.
So I make the same
Second.
motion?
Second.
Say second.
Second.
The motion.
The motion and do a second, that we go ahead and grant this permission to have that 12-foot on the western side of that lot,
It's both
On the
sides.
western side of the lot, on the corner.
side of the lot, of that corner of Third Street and Freeman Street.
Yes, ma'am.
And all in favor?
And all in favor, say motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All opposed? Motion carried.
You ready for the next one?
Next one.
All right. This is a request that's been submitted by Southside Outreach Group. The Southside Outreach Group is a housing production organization that we partner with, who helps us on East End and building homes and weatherizing houses, and they do housing. They're from South Boston. And they purchased a piece of property that's shown on this survey at a tax sale. And some of you may remember there was a house on this property. It's at the corner of Hurt Street and Broad Street, and there was a fire that burned a house down over there many years ago.
Didn't
You
we
may remember
approve
that.
this to be split?
Pardon?
Didn't we approve this to be split?
You approved splitting it.
Yeah,
The
okay.
reason we're here tonight is because this is a little different. Usually we can build a 2-bedroom house for families and that sort of thing. We're doing a different program here for this lot. And this lot is gonna be used for the workforce development housing program. We wrote and received a $400,000 grant to build new homes for
Correct.
working families.
Correct.
Not just low income, but these are folks that can qualify credit-wise to buy a home. We're just helping subsidize the price of a lot, down payment assistance and those kinds of things. So we're keeping our construction costs down in the $110 a square foot, whereas on the market it's nearly half that, or nearly double that.
Okay.
The home that's been selected, and this is a spec house, but we do have a qualified buyer, but we anticipate doing this as a spec because we have not signed the paperwork with this person, is a 24 by 44 home. The home would face Hurt Street, okay? It would be 44 feet wide, and I'll draw it on here. Okay. I apologize if I didn't have this on here. This house is already built. It's under construction. They're putting the
Right,
siding
it's
on
under
today.
there now.
And we
Yeah.
have a qualified buyer who's gonna purchase that home. And we hope to create a revolving loan fund so that she'll be making payments, and then we can loan those payments back out to the next family, okay? This home faces Broad Street now.
Right.
You've seen it, it's under construction.
Mm-hmm.
This home would face Hurt Street,
Mm-hmm.
okay? 24 deep, but remember, the front setback is 35 feet.
Mm-hmm.
24 and 35, 59. And the rear yard, because it's the same zoning as behind this McLeod's house, is 25 feet.
Mm-hmm.
We can only provide 21 feet. So the request is for a 4-foot variance on the rear yard setback from 25 feet to 21 feet to accommodate a 24-foot deep home. We believe that building 2-bedroom homes are not as marketable as 3-bedroom homes, and the 3-bedroom home is larger.
I agree with that.
And what's being built there? A 2 or
It'll be a 3-bedroom
a
home.
3-bedroom?
Yes, ma'am, it'll be a
Okay.
3-bedroom house.
And is that what's already built on the other lot?
It is, that's 3-bedroom
Okay.
house. But you can see the lot is 80 feet deep,
Right,
35, 24.
right.
I can only do
But we knew
21
that
feet.
when we split it, right?
Should have done it when I split it, but
Yeah.
I didn't know we were gonna move as quickly as we are. But because the first house is gonna be sold, we're ready to start our second house.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
now we have a square footage on
Well,
that.
we created this.
So,
I mean,
I
so
mean,
you know,
how can
this
we-
was all one parcel.
Okay,
3 months ago, 4 months ago, we
Mhm.
came to a BZA and asked to split the lot. The minimum lot size in that zoning district is 10,000 square feet, which is a little less than a quarter acre. okay, in that zoning district.
Okay,
BZA permitted us to cut it into two 7,000 square foot lots,
okay,
okay? By doing so, because of the depth of the lot, and that's all we had to work for, and because we wanna build a 3-bedroom home,
right,
I need a little
right.
consideration on the back.
So is this the second of 4 houses that's supposed to be going in that area?
It was 3, right? Was it 3?
The original grant application was
three.
for 3 homes,
Yeah.
but what we wanna do is create a revolving loan, so as those payments come in, we aggregate that money and we lend it back out for a 4th, and a 5th, and a
Okay.
6th, and a
And these are low income or moderate income? No?
moderate income. These are
Yeah.
intended for people who are school teachers,
Right.
or bus drivers,
Right.
or something who necessarily wouldn't qualify for our low, moderate income
Right.
programs that we work on East End.
Right,
Mhm.
These are folks that work every day.
Right.
And they don't have a specific income requirement as far as a floor, okay? Nor a cap.
So there's no max or, oh, okay, I thought there
They
was
gotta
a,
make the mortgage payments.
okay.
That's their match. And so we're
Okay.
gonna help them with down payments, and we're gonna help them with things like very low cost lots. I think they bought this whole lot at a tax sale for $5,000-6,000. So
good.
we're trying to create homeownership.
Yes.
And, we were the only community in Southside Virginia that applied for the grant.
Wow,
Habitat for Humanity, did you see that in the paper not too long ago? Habitat built their first home, and there's much ado about that. They applied, and they received $1 million to build homes. We received $400,000.
Oh, wow.
Same application, but we were the only community, and a private developer in Cambridge applied, and he received money for some apartments downtown or some units downtown.
mhm,
But they threw it out there, and we threw it back at them, and boop, $405,000.
That's awesome.
We're asking for a 4-foot variance to the rear yard setback in order to accommodate a
right,
3-bedroom home.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
It's a wonderful idea, just because of what it's for.
Hmm?
I said, because of what it's representing
Absolutely,
in our
yeah,
community.
helps the community.
Yeah.
And, so you know, anytime we do planning commission or have a public hearing that deals with a zoning matter, including Board of Zoning Appeals, we are obligated to do several things. One, we have to advertise in the newspaper 2 times
Okay,
for each public hearing for 2 weeks, not less than 5 days or more than 21 days before the public hearing. And we also have to send a certified letter or a letter that's certified by the clerk that it was sent out, and that's, Ms. McLeod received her letter as an adjoining property owner. So all the adjoining property owners in
oh, good,
the neighborhood that went around here received a letter.
right, good,
If everybody was interested as I am, it would know what's going on. Calm down, and then they look for somebody else to tell them about it.
It's too late.
I didn't get mine straight from the horse's mouth.
So,
I'm gonna vote for it, cause I think 3 bedrooms is important,
Market-wise,
yeah.
we have difficulty selling.
2
two-bedroom
bedrooms
houses.
too small,
People have 2 kids.
yeah, no, have
I'm
some,
gonna hereby open to the public for open discussion. Is there anyone present to speak for said property? I'll close that session. Is anybody present to speak against this property? I'll close that session. Are we ready for a motion?
yes.
All in favor of it?
yes,
Okay. I make a motion that we permit, the 21-foot from the rear lot line, for this construction to move forward and be built.
Thank you.
and I second the motion,
Been properly moved and second that we will allow the 21-foot
Variance.
setback for the Southside Outreach Group. All in favor of the said motion?
aye,
Motion carried.
Thank you.
All declined? None. Motion carried.
You want us to make that a standard so you don't have to be here?
No,
We talked about that already.
Philip and I had talked about that, but I didn't know,
I think let's let Tyler familiarize yourself? There
Oh.
have been some discussion about these 50-foot lots, because there's a bunch of them around.
Okay,
About just creating a standard 12 foot, and then everybody would be able to avoid going to BZA.
right,
Previous planning commission had said pretty specifically, we wanna consider each of these cases on their merit,
okay,
on each one. So, instead of creating a standard, which would be done by planning commission and council,
right.
do you wanna head in that direction now, or do you wanna stick with what the BZA had kinda instructed previously, which would be bring each of these on a case by case?
For me personally, I don't have a problem with it. I'm still learning, so I guess a couple more cases wouldn't hurt.
And then at some point, when you're comfortable, or you've been through a few of these,
Right,
because this one was different. They said a 35-foot setback requirement,
Right.
because it was a corner lot, so we'll continue on like we're doing until such time as you guys. decide
Right.
what you wanna do.
and I don't wanna create a monster, you know what I mean? Do something we regret down the line.
And I think that you and I had discussed too, if y'all do decide to set, that we would do 75-foot lot instead of 80, because they're 25-foot lots, right? Yes.
What she's talking about is because we have so many of these requests, and the majority of these lots are set 25-foot wide, 25, 25, 25. We have an 80-foot width requirement. Why that is, I don't know. Why they didn't just make it 75 feet years ago in our subdivision ordinance, I don't know. But there was some discussion between Jennifer and I, should we take that 80 and make it 75 so it's more streamlined? But
Right.
again, something else we can look at, but I do think it has some merit to have that discussion moving forward.
Okay,
So that would be just something that's written into, if we decided to go with the standard 12-foot, then you all would write in that it, on a 75-foot lot. because
We can
it
make
is
those
75
two
versus
changes.
80.
But that,
25 doesn't go into 80, so.
Right,
but these are requirements of the town council.
okay.
That change would have to be finally voted on by council. Planning commission would get a look at it and make a recommendation, and then council would be the final arbiter. So you know, BZA is the final arbiter on variances. You guys are hearing variance requests that are brought to you. You guys, if you remember, the judge appointed you. Council didn't appoint you.
right,
And so you're the final arbiter. Relief from a decision that you guys make is actually through circuit court, if somebody wants to have relief. Whereas planning commission makes a recommendation, council is the arbiter of that decision. Okay? A little bit different and have different roles. They set the rules and they vote on usage. You vote more on construction standard.
okay.
Okay? Setbacks, those kinds of things. All right? I offered this to you, and I know it drives Jennifer crazy. But do you have any questions about any development projects that are forthgoing or ongoing or anything like that going on in town? If you do, you're more than welcome to jump in the truck with me. I'd be more than happy to, as I did with Tyler last week, show you around, show you what we're doing, show you different projects, things we're doing in Taylor's Bottom and everywhere else in town. And we're proud of what we're doing. We're proud of council sticking by me and sticking by staff and getting things done. But we're seeing positives in town, across town, not just in parts of town.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think so too.
Questions? That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Since we have no other business before the zoning board, I hereby declare and close the zoning board meeting for this afternoon. Thank all that's present.
And it is 6:41, Mr. Bagley.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.